everyone. Welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market Podcast. This podcast is all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a small farmer or food maker selling at farmers markets, you have found just the right podcast. I'm Catt Fields White. My co-host Bridget Myers is shorthanded, and she's spending all day at a market, on the street, and in a tent. You know what that feels like, right? So it's all me today for this episode. I'm a longtime farmers market manager, educator, and consultant. Get ready to catch up on all things farmers market pros. Today I'll be providing an update on the next InTents, the National Farmers Market Conference. Today's episode of Tent Talk, the Farmers Market Podcast, is supported by MarketWurks, providing a single, multifaceted tool to manage your markets, schedule your farmers and vendors, create market maps, and maintain up-to-date data on attendance, space rent, sales, and more. Give up that stuffed 3-ring binder and free up your time. Click the MarketWurks logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com to get started today. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk. Crazy but true. This is episode 256, so in 4 more episodes, we'll be celebrating a full 5 years of recording Tent Talk, the Farmers Market Podcast, every week. Can you believe it? Thanks for taking this wild ride with us. I have to admit, I thought it was a bit of a cockamamie scheme when Bridget and Justine suggested it a few years back, but it's actually turned out to be a lot of fun, and we know you're listening. We got so many comments recently on the Farmers Market Fashion episode. I know you're out there. We appreciate you being with us. It's been even longer than that we've been producing InTents, the national, actually multinational, Farmers Market Conference. Market managers, participants, and policymakers from all over the U.S., Canada, and beyond have been joining us in San Diego or online since 2017. It's so crazy to be out in the world and run into somebody from Latvia or Rotterdam that's listened to Tent Talk and recognizes my voice. And now we're planning for the 8th annual conference coming up in March 2024. So you know how it's good to reintroduce yourself on Instagram every once in a while so your new followers can catch up and your loyal fans can remember how they found you? I'm going to do that today about the conference and provide a little background on how we got started, how it's evolved, and where it's going. Before 2008, I'd been a restaurant owner and a writer and a publisher, and I'd always gone to conferences and events to keep up on those industries. So when I started running farmers markets, I looked for what was available to do that. Learn more, figure out how to do things, meet my people. Pretty much what I had to choose from was small farm conferences, and those were always designed for farmers. Like if I wanted to put in an irrigation system or figure out how to convert from conventional to organic, or maybe find great seed sources, I could have done that there, but that's not exactly what I needed. It was great for the small farmers. There was very little about markets at those conferences. Usually maybe 1 or 2 sessions. A lot of times I was the one that was presenting at least one of them. I was always kind of being dragged in to do the marketing session. And then there'd be a great round table where we all complained about local regulations and about dogs at the market. That was pretty much it. That's all you could find for farmers market managers at conferences. We were definitely an afterthought. It seemed to me, too, that once farmers figured out how to farm, once they learned how to grow produce, somebody should be teaching them how to sell. There are a lot of farmers, just like food makers and market managers, that didn't really understand the business side of things. And I thought we could help. Farmers markets don't just happen, and farmers market managers and food makers need help. Nobody was talking to the food makers. Granola makers, bakers, hummus vendors, they all need help with the business side of things too. And it just wasn't happening at the conferences that I was finding. The Farmers Market Coalition was just getting started when I started my first market. It was way before all their cool toolkits came into being. So I was kind of making it up as I went along. And like most great ideas, the fact was I started the conference because I needed help. And I figured maybe some other people did too. So in November 2016, I had this brilliant idea, and my very small team reluctantly got behind me, and we decided to launch a conference for farmers market people in March. Yeah, 5 months later, with the holidays in between. We were out of our minds. But incredibly, with that 5 short months of planning, we did it, and it was great. It was small, but it was great. A lot of people showed up, farmers, food makers, market managers. And we had a great time, and we realized that we weren't the only ones in our own little leaky boats. We were all in this together, and we could share ideas, and we could paddle, and we could figure out how to make it happen just a little bit better. It turned out to be a really good idea, even if that first one was a little rushed. So now, as we've grown, the audience that's live at the conference has distilled mainly into market managers. I still want to do something great for food makers. I feel like nobody reaches out to them. Farmers, they get a lot of their information at farmers market conferences. And we do find that our podcast and our online classes reach a lot of farmers and food makers. And we still talk a lot to them on this podcast and in other ways. But they seem to be less inclined or less able to travel to a conference. There are some that tune in online, but we don't see many of them at the conference the way we did the first year. So yeah, the conference is also online. Like most gatherings, we had to adapt in 2020. We eked in right under the line. Our conference that year was a little bit earlier than usual. We had it in person. Everybody went home. I went to another conference the next weekend, and by the time I came out of that conference, the guy at the rental counter didn't want to take my car keys. I had to drop them in a box. COVID was here. As we all remember, a little bit painfully, that jumped right on us. But we had slipped in with the InTents conference that year. By 2021, no dice. There was no way we were getting people together all in a room. So we went entirely virtual. That was a huge learning experience. Shout out to Justine Marzoni-Mead, who was with us and had to figure all that tech out, but we did manage it. And the good news was, since it was all virtual, people got used to signing up for an online version of the conference. They liked it. So when we went back to being in person in 2022, we did it as a hybrid. Learning experience? Yep, all over again. How do we do this in person and online and live streaming? We had no idea. It was a little confusing. It mostly went smoothly. It was kind of expensive, but it turned out that people loved it. There's a lot of folks that want to come. They want to be there. They want to see their friends. They want to make camp buddies at the InTents conference. But then there's a lot of folks that can't get away. Or at that time, they were a little bit nervous about being in a room with other people, even though our weird little venue gives us a lot of open doors and windows. So hybrid, they were able to sign up online and follow right along. Now we've done it twice. So we did it again in 2023, and it was a lot smoother. We knew what we were doing this time. And again, we found that though it's a little bit more expensive to produce that way, a whole bunch more folks can sign up because there's people that can't take the time or don't have the money to travel, and they can join us too. So hybrid is the way of the future, and we're right there. We're still looking for ways to let those food drivers do a deep dive and network with their peers. But for now, most of our conference content is aimed at managers and policymakers, including a good chunk of train the trainer content so that those managers can take knowledge back to their farmers and vendors. So we're still getting to the small farmers and vendors that way. We see some of them on that live stream. So since 2017, we've grown. More people meet us in person in San Diego, and more folks join online. People come back year after year, which is the best indication to us that they like what they find. We continue to grow and adjust based on what works and what doesn't logistically. I mean, our team will never again try to register everybody on Monday morning. We figured that out quickly. So we have a whole system that starts on Sunday afternoon, continues Monday morning, goes very smoothly. Year after year, we figure out ways to do things just a little bit better. Attendee comments at the conference and in our online survey are the other ways we learn what really works and what could be done a little bit better. This year's survey was completed by people who attended, and we also made a big effort to get it out to people who didn't attend. That way we could figure out what we might be able to do to tweak what we offer a little bit so that those folks might come next time, or it might work better for them in the future. So here's what we learned from this year's comments and survey. 83% of folks that answered said the 3-day schedule is just right. Not too long, not too short, just the way Goldilocks and all the bears liked it. It's always Monday through Wednesday to avoid the largest weekend market days. Attendance keeps growing at the pre-conference workshops and tours, though, on Saturday and Sunday, so we know some of you are finding ways to sneak away earlier and enjoy that pretty San Diego weather for a few extra days. Sounds like 3 days is working. That's where we're going to go. We're going to keep adding those pre-conference weekend events. 64% said early March was a perfect time. 8% said it was too early in the year. 9% said it was too late for them. So, you know what? Majority wins for now. March it is. We may look at a fall event at some point. Maybe not a 3-day fall event, maybe something shorter, but we may mix it up a little bit. 85% of you say you refer back to the recorded sessions. Those can be accessed by anyone who registers for in-person or online attendance. So if you can come to the conference, but you've got a critical meeting on Wednesday and you're going to miss that last day, you can pick it up on the recordings. If you're listening online, we know online 3 days is a long time to sit in front of a computer or a microphone. Even though we engage with folks on the online audience, we let people ask questions. We've got a coordinator dedicated to our online audience that gets to interact with the other attendees, help them send out questions to the speakers on stage. But still, 3 days is a lot to take in anything in that kind of atmosphere. So a lot of those folks we see going back to the recorded sessions and checking in on the ones that they missed. Favorite speakers, according to the survey? That was all over the map, except almost everyone loves Shiny Flannery. So we'll keep mixing things up, and we'll probably keep bringing Shiny back as long as she'll come. Our attendees most like hearing from experienced market managers and business operations experts. Personally, I'm an author fangirl, and if some of you came in the early years, you remember that we had a lot of book authors, folks that had written farm memoirs, folks that had written things about how to do accounting in a clever and exciting way. You think that's possible? I love those guys, but that doesn't seem as important to you. So now we concentrate a little bit more on the market managers that have experience and the folks in operations that have some expertise. We've always kept nearly all of our sessions in one room, and the reason for that is just about me. I hate going to a conference where there's 4 or 5 interesting sessions and I have to pick which one to go to and which 3 to miss. Makes me crazy. So we've always had everybody in the same room together, watching the main stage most of the time. Here's what's happened, though. A lot of people are return attendees now. A bunch of them have come back 2, 3, 5 years in a row. And so they need to see the content progress as well. At the same time, a whole lot of brand new market managers come. We're seeing more and more organizations now sending their new managers so that they can get up to speed when they're just getting started. So that group has a little bit different needs. So in 2024, one of our 6 blocks of sessions will be split. Newer managers will concentrate on nuts and bolts in one room, and more experienced farmers market pros will dig deep on some other topics that are a little bit more complicated and advanced back on the main stage. Overall, based on a few comments, and also because of some of my experiences at some other conferences recently, we'll be introducing more interactive sessions in 2024. I'm a little bit afraid that as we've all gotten into a Zoom culture and mentality, we're getting used to talking to people instead of talking with people. It's just the way online communication is. And so we need to remember that live and in person, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be all about a PowerPoint. It can be a conversation. It doesn't all have to be about one expert. It can be about sharing our expertise. So we'll have a lot more interactive sessions in 2024. Roundtables, conversations, panels that come off a little bit like a talk show, and even a speed dating session to find your market mentor or just a new market bestie. Thanks, Robbie Mixon and Kara May Woolidge, for leading that session. What's your market superpower? Our request for proposals is open right now, and you have until late September to tell us if you'd like to give a presentation, facilitate a workshop, or take part on a panel. Be sure to be as specific as possible about your topic. If you tell us in your proposal that you're going to present on social media, recruiting vendors, building community relationships, and figuring out a lease on your venue, well, that's 3 or 4 sessions, not one. Pick one topic, dig deep. We tell every conference speaker to tell us what our attendees will know after their session that they didn't know going in, and we're serious about that. Can you teach all of us something new or inspire us to do better? We try to make sure that all of our speakers can. Every once in a while, we talk about taking our show on the road. Just over 70% of attendees said they'd like to keep coming back to San Diego, or they had no preference about the conference location. To be fair, by a landslide, Canadians voted for sunny San Diego. We wonder why. Have you been to Canada in March? Brrr. Lead contenders when we ask for preferred alternate locations are Washington, D.C. and Atlanta. For 2024, we'll be back in San Diego. We'll reach out for more input before we consider a switch for 2025. But for now, home sweet home. Many of you love our slightly funky waterfront venue. It's got a view of the boats. It's casual, doesn't feel stuffy. There's a lot of outside space, kind of like a farmer's market. Others would like something a little bit fancier. Honestly, we'd all love better Wi-Fi. We're going to work harder on that. We boost the tech for speakers, live stream and recording, so all of that is perfectly smooth. We really don't see any hiccups there. But for attendees trying to work on site, the Wi-Fi is laggy. We keep trying to find a solution. Meanwhile, it's all about your hotspot. We're also nudging the venue and bringing in outside services this coming year to improve recycling and composting for the event. That's not something they offer, and it's important to us, and we know it's important to you. We work to keep our registration fees very low compared to other national conferences, and just under 3% of comments felt that the price could be discouraging them from returning. More folks found that travel expenses can be a barrier, and we're not sure what the way is around that. We did have that handful of folks this year who told us they thought the price was too high, and that's one reason we offer online registration at a much lower price to help them out. Our full 3-day in-person registration price of under $300 during early bird pricing and under $400 even at full price is less than half of other conferences that I attended this year, including the International Public Markets Conference and Main Street America. Both of those were great. They were huge and they were worth the price of admission. But we understand that folks in our industry may be on more limited budgets than some of the folks that attend those conferences. Some of those more expensive conferences include meals in their price, or at least some of the meals. We schedule local farmers market food vendors that sell food on site so our attendees can buy breakfast and lunch, bring their own if they're cutting it close, and we offer complimentary food and beverage at one evening reception. One reason we don't go to a luxury venue specifically is that we'd be limited to hotel food in that kind of environment. Hotel food's got a lot of commodity ingredient sourcing. It's got a lot of inherent waste. You'll see plates and plates of food sitting that nobody's eating, and we just can't get comfortable with that. It'd also require us to charge a much higher registration fee to cover all that food. So we're probably going to keep the same thing we've been doing. We're going to look at finding sponsors for maybe a couple of snack and coffee times where we can offer you a little bit more complimentary refreshments, but mostly you're going to be buying from farmers market vendors, as it has been since the beginning. Unfortunately, we'll never be able to keep the ticket price for the National InTents Conference comparable to a local small farm conference. Those oftentimes are underwritten by membership fees and grants from local agencies, and ours isn't. We're not grant funded. So like many markets, our conference income needs to recover its costs at this stage. We took a loss on it for a few years. That doesn't make sense at this point. So our venue fees, equipment rentals, AV and recording services, insurance, staffing, cool swag, we've got to cover that out of registration fees and with help from our terrific sponsors. Farmers market conferences don't just happen, you know? So what's next? How can you participate in the conference? First, share your knowledge. Our RFP is open until late next month at conferencerfp.com. Hey, you know I was clever to get that domain, right? Conferencerfp.com. There's a form there. It's kind of like a farmer's market application. Be sure to read the instructions so you know exactly what we're looking for and answer each question succinctly and completely for the best chance of being selected. We'd love to see some new faces on stage. If you don't want to present, but you saw a great speaker at a local conference, or you know someone who's an expert in market accounting, MailChimp list management, maybe human resources regulations, or other things you'd like to learn more about and think other farmers market folks could benefit from as well, feel free to drop us a line with their name and, if possible, their contact information. You can connect with us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com, or you can message us on Instagram. There's a lot of ways to get hold of us. Tell us who you'd like to hear from. We devote a lot of time to recruiting speakers and making sure that we create a balanced program that'll give you a benefit. We typically hire a few market professionals to help with on-site logistics at the conference. Big shout out to Hannah Fuller, Sina Plagencool, Tamara Cameron, and Christy Campley, all market folks who've all been on-site superstars in recent years. They've helped with managing connections between our speakers and our online attendees. They've helped in the swap shop. They've helped with registration. We need a small team of folks to do that. Our core team is really, really tiny. So if you're interested in working on conference prep or on site at the conference, drop us a line, again, at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. Tell us about your skills. Tell us about your availability the first week of March, and let's talk. Maybe you don't want to do any of those things. Maybe you don't want to talk. Maybe you don't want to work. Maybe you just want to show up, take a break from event production of your own, learn a few things, make some new friends. That was weak, but it was a drum roll. Registration's open today. Go to Farmers Market Pros, click the ticket link to reserve your space. As always, we're starting with a super, super early bird price. That's only going to be available for a month. Super early bird pricing, that'll get you through October. And then early bird pricing, you know, that bird that's up early, but, slept in a little bit, had a cup of coffee before it headed out. That pricing will be in effect until the first week of January. We know that some of you need to take registration out of next year's budget. The earlier you buy, the more you save. The first real schedule details will be posted in October. So those biggest savings do require making a leap of faith that we'll be back again with content that makes your life easier, less stressful, and more profitable. So far, we think that's paid off for you bargain hunters. I know I've done it a few times at music festivals, and most of the time it works out. And yes, Three's Company deals will be offered again. That way you can bring your whole team. That's kind of a buy two, get one free sort of scheme on ticket pricing. And we'll be offering again a big tent program. That provides huge savings if you're going to get a group together that wants to watch the live streamed version online. You pay one price, you get 10 registrations for way less than 10 people can register individually. That's been super popular. We've gotten some really interesting, wonderful feedback from groups that have done that. So we'll be offering that again for 2024. No matter how you join us, we can't wait to see you in 2024 because we all know farmers markets are so intense. Thanks for listening today, and big thanks to MarketWurks for helping farmers market managers and vendors by putting all of the tools for applying, scheduling, and invoicing for markets in one place. MarketWurks was one of the very first sponsors to support InTents, the National Farmers Market Conference, in its early years. Today, they hold a meetup with their clients every year right at the conference, and they provide registration for some of their users. So it's perfectly appropriate that today they're also supporting this episode of Tent Talk. Find more information and sign up to make your market operation easier by clicking the MarketWurks logo on the resource page at farmersmarketpros.com.
Thanks for listening to Tent Talk today. Please leave us a review on your podcast app or wherever you listen to Tent Talk. Let us and others know how you're enjoying the podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode of Tent Talk. Connect with fellow farmers market folks in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros Community. Follow us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros and find online education and other resources on our website at farmersmarketpros.com. Tent Talk is brought to you by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Tent Talk is produced by Leandra Hayes with original music by David Mead. Tune in next week for another great episode.